Nobody can focus. We're restless, we're anxious, we're suffocated under this endless stream of content. This is killing your ambition and your creativity. And you have it in you, it's still there, but it's blocked. It's chained down by these distractions. And if we want to achieve anything of value, we have to learn how to focus again. The same focus that let Honoré de Balzac pen 100 works before he turned 50. The same focus that Isaac Newton credited for his work. And the same focus you will use for your triumph in business, in education, and in art. I've struggled a lot with this, I'll be honest. But more recently I've been working on it, and I found ways to reduce my screen time, to improve my attention span, and to spend more time on what actually makes me happy. So after we explore why this problem exists and where it came from, I want to share those tips with you, because I think they're helpful. This whole video boils down to one thing: focus stamina. This is our ability to give attention to something and to sustain it over extended periods. And just like physical stamina, it can be depleted, yes, but it can also be trained and improved. The difference in focus stamina is why one person might feel restless after 10 minutes of reading, and then the other person can do it for 3 hours straight, no problem. A weak focus stamina is why you have already scrolled down to the comments of this video, and why you're going to check your phone during this video. I mean, there's a challenge for you to not do that. Now look, it's easy to point fingers and throw the blame around, but you and I, we're victims of something far greater. Something that is almost beyond our control. The hollowing of the media. Our media is getting more hollow. It's bigger than ever, and yet every year it loses depth. And now it feels empty, stripped of all of its substance. These changes in media, in how our information gets around, they've completely eroded your focus stamina, and you didn't even see it coming. So let me explain. In the past, our information came from speeches, from books, and eventually the press. And generally, these were long, dense, and thoughtful. There was nowhere to scroll away, there was no 2x speed, and there were definitely no comments to distract you. That was the norm. And therefore, our thinking and our discourse reflected this style of media. It was equally as slow, deep, and measured. This was a completely different world, and I want to give you some examples. Dickens and Tolstoy were household names, and their novels were widely enjoyed, with many released in chunks across months, maybe even years. Magazines like Harper or The Atlantic, they would publish these dense and complicated essays and critiques, sometimes thousands of words longer than we're used to today. Theatre and opera could run for hours, and maybe even across multiple evenings if it was like Wagner or something. And going even further back, the Homeric epics, they could take like 30 hours to perform, which is unheard of today. To a Victorian, the closest thing to short-form content was The Penny Dreadful, which was a short story published every week and read by millions. And even those were like 10 pages long, so, you know. And maybe most importantly, our politics was like this as well. In his famous Midlothian campaign, the leader of the Liberal Party, William Gladstone, toured Scotland and gave a series of speeches which attacked the foreign policy of Benjamin Disraeli and his Conservatives who are currently in the government. These speeches pulled massive attention, both from the press and ordinary people. But what would shock us today is that these speeches could last up to 5 hours in length, and they would include detailed and long-winded critiques of policy and these dense moral sermons. And people followed this. They followed it. And it clearly worked because Gladstone built momentum and actually ended up winning the election, becoming Prime Minister. The audience had the attention span to follow these long lines of reasoning. Then came the TV and the radio. Our discourse became faster, more stimulating, and suddenly the charisma and the delivery mattered much more, because now everybody could see you or hear you. For example, the 1960 debate between Kennedy and Nixon, well, they abandoned the long speeches of bygone eras, and instead they focused on shorter segments of debate, leaning especially to sound bites and slogans that could look good in the headlines. Then came the modern news, which just repeated snippets and segments all day. And then we saw infotainment, we saw talk shows, we saw reality TV. And they all seemed to rely on sensationalism to get that shock factor and keep people watching. Even the commercials in between were snappy and in your face. Making longer shows didn't make much sense anymore, because they were expensive, they didn't fit in with the advertising blocks, and of course, if people felt that your show was dragging on longer than the rest, they just wouldn't watch. But the darkest days were yet to come, because we now enter the modern era, the distraction economy. It's dominated by short-form content, by video games, and these endless catalogues to scroll through. Nothing was safe, and even our political debate suffered. I mean, half of them now feel like a Jubilee panel more than an actual productive conversation. But the biggest changes are from social media, because you have these multi-billion-dollar corporations investing filthy amounts of cash into engineering their product to be as addictive as possible. They use algorithms and cheap tactics and psychology all to arouse the pleasure center of your brain and keep you hooked. And it makes sense because these billions of dollars are earned through advertising. So they will do everything it takes to keep your eyes on their product. It's why when you open YouTube on your phone right now, it's probably going to greet you with shorts. And it's why we can like things on Instagram. Those red hearts, they just tickle us, they do something to us. It's why when you open a supply drop in COD, it molests you with like 10 different sound effects and animations.
Use the quick purchase method.
It's like chill. I was already stimulated, you don't have to be doing all that. And if even a moment of boredom dares to creep in, it doesn't matter. Because you have 100 new videos to click off to, you can just scroll away to the next thing, or you can just look through the comment section and distract yourself. I have the problem of half watching a bunch of YouTube videos, and I end up with like 10 tabs, just messy, scattered. So why can't I have the focus to just watch one and then move on to the next? That's where it comes from. Something like a book doesn't have this problem. There's no recommended tab to escape to, and you definitely can't just scroll on. Even then, we do see long-form content continue to go viral even today, like those multi-hour podcasts. And you might see that and think, well, great. Attention span is alive. People are still watching this stuff, it's doing well. But how true is that really? Because a lot of this content, this long-form content, it just ends up as background noise. Like a constant stream of stimulation running on autopilot in the background. Because let's be real, when people watch Netflix or all these massive podcasts, they're going to be on their phone or doing something else. So how much of an indicator is that really? Further yet, we are creating new ways to bring the content with us. We have AirPods, we have battery packs, and soon we're probably all going to have AR glasses, which give us a HUD like in Halo. And we can bring our reels everywhere. We can drive and gamble at the same time. We can do all these crazy things. And it always reminds me of this meme, like a constant IV drip, just pumping the content in 24/7. Not even the students can focus. And if you've been in a lecture hall in the past 5 or 10 years, then you know this. The girls are online shopping on their laptops, the boys are pissing around just the same, and that's all within like the first 10 or 20 minutes. I remember once I was in a geography lecture, and I was watching the Rainbow Six Siege Championships from someone else's laptop in the front row. I mean, it's cool, I guess, but is this what we're doing? Like, it's a mess. And the tech bros know this is happening. Their CEOs don't even let their children use these apps. And it's not like the harm is a mystery to anyone. But you know, a hustle is a hustle apparently. I like how Ted Joyer described this in his Substack, which you should check out by the way. The tech platforms aren't like the Medici in Florence, or those other rich patrons of the arts. They don't want to find the next Michelangelo or Mozart. They want to create a world of junkies, because they will be the dealers. And he follows it with this wonderful graph, which shows you how what was once thoughtful and constructive is now jittery, shallow, and pointless. When we stop training, our muscles atrophy. And the same is true for our focus stamina. The more we surrender to short form and the less we train it, the weaker it gets. Our tolerance for boredom gets lower, and we struggle in the absence of pleasure, eventually to the point where it's impossible to be without it, and we have to have something playing all the time. The result is that anything relatively less stimulating than what you're addicted to, well, that suddenly becomes much harder. For example, if you're addicted to manga, then reading a novel might challenge your stamina. But then if you're addicted to YouTube, well now even a manga might be hard. And if you're addicted to Instagram Reels, suddenly even a 10-minute YouTube video might feel like a slog, and you just cannot give your attention to it. All of this is relative. And you and I and everyone else, we're all at different levels of focus stamina. And we're all more or less addicted than each other to different things. So that's important to remember for the practical tips up ahead. And if this doesn't make sense, think to your childhood. I don't know about you, but I remember being able to devour books for like 5 hours straight and it was nothing. And of course I could, because back then I didn't even know what a phone was. So reading, relatively, was the most fun thing to do. And so it was easy. But today your focus is so hurt that anything less stimulating than your phone suddenly becomes a challenge. And I mean ordinary activities like walking around or reading or just doing nothing. And this is a two-sided issue. Because yes, we are eroding our focus stamina with short-form content, but we're also not doing anything to train it back up and to counter this decline. For example, fewer people are reading. And when we do read, more and more we rely on summaries, on AI, or multitasking with audiobooks, as if we have some kind of mental disability and we just can't read properly. In the past, I used to flick through books like The Wealth of Nations or The Winning of the West, and I thought to myself, how the fuck do people get through this? Like, it's so fat. And now I'm not as surprised because, yeah, their focus stamina was in good shape, and these long, dense texts were just normal to them. And they can be normal to you and they can be normal to me. But how can we do this? What must we do? The answer is simple but not easy. We must rebuild our focus stamina by A, refusing to let short-form content steal our attention, and B, by actively giving our attention to less stimulating alternatives, more thoughtful, dense pieces of content. It's hard, it's uncomfortable, our monkey brains are not going to like this, and yet we have to, because this is how we rebuild our attention span. In other words, we increase our tolerance for boredom. That's how I like to put it. The good news is the brain is plastic, it adapts. And this means that the more we practice, the happier we will be with less stimulation. And that can come to a point where even the boring activities like work and reading suddenly become the fun things, our sources of joy. It's probably why those industrious people of history achieved so much. Because to them, their work was the stimulation, it was the fun thing, and not the boring distraction. This is how you will keep your promises and actually breathe your ambitions into reality. It's how you will break the masturbatory cycle of addiction and disappointment. It's how we can become deep thinkers again and actually spend more time on what's meaningful to us. This last portion of the video is about the tips which help me do that. And mind you, I'm not perfect. I've still got a lot of work to do, but these were genuinely useful and promising. And I swear that not all of them are just the same rehashed tips you've seen a million times. At least not all of them. Now, most of your work is going to be at your desk, on your PC. But the problem is that's also where YouTube is and online shops and news feeds. There's no avoiding it, so how do you stay focused? One of my best discoveries for this was Rise, a productivity assistant that helps you manage your time and improve your focus patterns. And I'm glad to say they are today's sponsor. Without any effort on your part, Rise automatically tracks what you spend your time on and then neatly snapshots this with pie charts and calendar views. To improve on anything in life, you need to first understand it, and this is the first step. I like to start focus sessions to keep myself zoned in, and there's a handy widget which keeps me accountable with this, including when to take breaks, which we know is just as important. My favourite feature is the distraction blocker. If Rise notices you drifting off, it snaps you out of it and corrects your course, which is exactly the discipline we need to improve our focus. And if you have a specific goal that you want to work on, Rise has these templates which help you narrow in and improve even faster. And the cherry on top, the aesthetics. Lots of other focus apps are clunky, but Rise keeps it smooth, sleek, and polished. To try Rise for yourself, click the link in the description. And if you use code Odysseus, you'll get 25% off of any purchase. And if you feel like you need more time to explore the app, that's totally fine, because this discount will remain active for up to 3 months after you use it. So thank you so much to Rise, and I do hope you enjoy it just as much as I do. I will save my best strategy for the end because I'm a twat, but in the meantime, what else can you do? And the first tip is to remove distractions from your field of view. One study showed that merely having your phone in your field of vision, even if it was switched off, was enough to lower cognitive function. And on top of that, having it in your field of vision is a constant temptation. You want to pick it up and get stuck in a cycle. I work here most of the time, and the way I counter this is dumb simple. I just get my phone and I throw it on the bed behind me. And I forget it exists. I focus on what's in front of me, and it just doesn't really come to my mind because I don't see it. And if that's still a struggle, which it can be, then just put it in a different room. Put it in your cupboard, put it in a drawer, put it in the fridge, I don't care. Just keep it out of sight, out of mind. I don't actually know if you could put it in your fridge. I don't know, check that first. Now, if you get the itch to use your phone, you have to actively stop what you're doing, leave your room, and go and pick it up. And that effort it takes is a buffer. And it kind of gives you a chance to say, oh, okay, I don't actually need it, I'm just going to carry on. It's the same reason I don't like to charge my phone on my desk, or to even have it on the desk ever. It's too much of a temptation to just pick it up and start scrolling. If you were trying to quit smoking, you wouldn't carry around a pack of cigarettes. It's the same principle. Number 2 is the question of the second monitor. When I first got my second monitor, you can see it there. I mean, it was brilliant. I loved it. And it's still great. But I picked up a bad habit because I started putting YouTube videos there or podcasts or whatever. And I started playing them as I worked on whatever was on my main monitor. At first, I did this for the more boring tasks, like sorting out files or whatever. I thought, okay, well, this takes no brain power, I may as well enjoy something on the side. Okay, fair enough, that's pretty innocent. But eventually it became a bad habit, and I started doing it more and more, even to the point where I was watching YouTube while writing, or coming up with ideas. And it was just terrible. I became addicted. And now half the time, like a monkey, I was just looking at the second screen distracted. And I didn't get any work done. And this had to go, this had to stop. If this is really a struggle for you, you can just get rid of the second monitor completely. But it is useful and I do enjoy using it for work as well. So what do you do? The simpler solution is to just click minimize. Just keep your boring old background there, nothing there. And again, if nothing is in your peripheral vision, there's nothing to really latch onto and get tempted by. I try not to listen to any music as I work because I have the tendency to latch on to the lyrics and it kind of throws me off. Maybe you're fine with it and that's fair enough. But you can also compromise by only listening to music which is less intrusive. Like some classical pieces, not Vivaldi or anything crazy. Or like jazz or ambient music or the Skyrim OST, something like that. That way it's very much in the background and it's not pushing out at you and distracting you. Number 4 is to use limiters. Rise is one of these limiters and it's great. And I also like to use the ones that are built into my Google Pixel. And your phone will probably have something similar, so do check it out. These apps track your screen time and they show you the problem apps, which for me was Instagram, for example. And then what you can do is put time limits on each app, like an hour or half an hour, whatever. And what this does, it really works because mentally, now that you know you have a budget, you sort of use it less than you want to. When you get the temptation to scroll in the morning, you think, okay, I have an hour of Instagram today or 30 minutes. I need to not waste it all in this one session. And that mental sort of budgeting helps you just get off of it immediately. And I found that I rarely ever reach this limit because I know that, I don't want to use it in case I have to message someone or if I want to just look through memes or whatever. It's like when you budget your groceries. If you know you have a certain amount of money to spend, you're probably going to end up going under because you're so conscious of that limit. And the same is true here. You end up spending less time on your phone. And even if you do use up all your time and reach your limit, it doesn't matter because you are still now lower than you were before. And you can even start to lower it gradually as your focus stamina gets better. I also use this app called Minimalist Phone. And what this does is it turns your phone into a boring old list in black and white. And this makes it much more unattractive to use. And of course, it stops all the flashy colors from pulling you in and tempting you. So give that a try too. I think it's free. I'm not sure. Number 5 is to carry on scrolling, but with a twist. Instead of scrolling through Instagram or Twitter or something equally stimulating, you can instead substitute that with something more slow and thoughtful and maybe more boring. For example, and this is my personal slice of autism, I like to go on Fragrantica and scroll through people's fragrance reviews. It does the trick for me. I also try and scroll more through my newsfeed and sometimes like random Wikipedia articles. Is it the best? No. You're still scrolling. But at the very least, it's inherently less stimulating and you are it's more slow, it's more thoughtful, and at least you're learning something in the process. Now, if that's what it takes to move away from the short form slop and the AI, fine. It's a win in my book. And you can use it as a stepping stone to get even better and to stop it altogether. But if that's what you have to do, then do it. Before we get to the juicier points, we have to get the obvious and most important one out the way. Number 6 is to lean towards denser content. You need to engage with slower, more thoughtful content, rather than just videos and reels and tweets. This will be difficult, you'll meet friction, but like your muscles in the gym, you have to encounter some resistance and some friction for any change to happen. And that's the only way your focus stamina will get better. And it's not just books either. Like yes, there'll be a big part of it, but this can also include anything else that's long and thoughtful. It can be documentaries, it can be movies, it can be even podcasts if you want to take it slow and take notes. Or longer articles, really anything. Now, if you scroll on Instagram for 6 hours a day, I'm not going to ask you to suddenly switch to reading Hegel. You'd probably kill yourself. It's not realistic. So instead, we have to find ways to ease ourselves into it and to slowly read or engage with less stimulating content over an extended period. If you can't read for 3 hours a day, read for 1 hour a day. If you can't read for 1 hour a day, read for 20 minutes. If you can't do 20, do 5. If you can't read a novel, read a manga and just build up to it. There's a lot of books on my shelf that I'm not ready to face yet, like City of God, for example. But I'm going to work my way up to it and, build up my attention, build up my knowledge, and hopefully one day I'll get there. It's a gradual process over time. Number 7 is to have a meaningful direction. Most people will fail to improve their focus even after they cut down on their phone use because they don't feel the vacuum left behind by it. If you now spend 4 less hours on your phone every day, that's fantastic. But you need to fill that space with something because otherwise it's just a void and you will genuinely be dead bored, and that risks you relapsing into bad habits. Of course, some boredom is good, but let's be reasonable. You need a meaningful pursuit, something to direct your potential energy to and to fill that void left behind. This should be something that's important to you, something that you have control over, at least mostly, and something that you are good at or can see yourself becoming good at. These 3 features are related to the theory of self-determination, which describes how our intrinsic motivation works. So if you can find something with these 3 features and direct your energy to it, you're in a good place. Number 8 is to get a running start. One huge mistake I was guilty of was that I started my days very poorly, and it made it harder to recover and to get back in the flow. I'd reach for my phone first thing in the morning, I'd scroll, I'd become retarded, and then the first few hours of the day is just powering through that grogginess and that restlessness. It was a terrible way to begin. It's like smashing your face in the ground at the start of a sprint. You're just really going to have a hard time winning. So I recommend 3 changes. And the first is, if you use your phone to wake up in the morning, instead get a digital alarm clock. Mine ran out of battery like yesterday, so it's not working. But this means that you can put your phone in another room or far away from you, and when you wake up in the morning, you have no temptation to start scrolling. You can just switch off the alarm here and get to work. Get up out your bed, start the day, have a coffee, and get that momentum. Second, try to do something creative or productive as soon as possible from waking up. This will set the tone for the rest of the day and give you that sort of mental stimulation to get going. I like to immediately make a coffee and then start reading. And that feels like an early win. It feels like a warm-up, and I can then go on and work and do something more productively. Third, make a brief plan. And this is dead simple. It takes 30 seconds. You just write down 2, 3, 4 things you want to get done today. And that gives you a sense of structure, of intention, of planning. And I don't know, that mentally just works for people. It just gets them to do stuff and gets them to work through them. You frame the day, you have a clear path to follow, it's great. As I promised, I've saved the best for last, and it's training your boredom. This is where you purposefully create moments of boredom in your life to reflect, to think, and to just get comfortable with doing nothing. It trains your focus and makes you rely on less stimulation. If you get used to boredom, then suddenly boredom isn't boring anymore. And it becomes almost a pleasure in life that you can enjoy and benefit from. And of course, if you're fine with doing nothing for an extended period, then literally anything more stimulating than that is going to be fun now. And that includes reading, it includes conversations, it includes the things that we know are good for us, and yet we're too restless to do. There's so many ways to do this, but I'll just tell you a few of mine. I don't use my phone in the gym. And if I do need a stopwatch, I will just use the one built into my Casio, which is handy. I also never listen to music outside. Now, that's good for boredom as well, but I feel like in any major city, you shouldn't really do that in the first place. There's too many weirdos. I also try to not use my phone on buses or trains. Because again, you don't have to. You can just look out the window and think to yourself and enjoy the commute. If you need to not make eye contact with tweakers, fine, I understand, but generally you don't have to. I also try to eat my lunch and drink my coffee without using my computer or phone. I'm a Zoomer, it's not always easy, but you can, again, enjoy the food in front of you, think about it, savor it, you eat slower, you enjoy it. You don't need to watch something all the time. If you want a deeper look, I have a full video on this. It's linked here on the screen, and as always, please comment, email me. I love to hear what you have to say, your experiences, and of course, it's helpful for both me, because I learn stuff, and for everyone else. And I feel as a community, we build off of each other and really push each other up with these tips and bits of advice. Of course, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it.